Welcome to the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, a dedicated parental alienation coach here to support and advocate for families navigating the challenges of high conflict divorce and custody disputes. I'm here to shed light on the struggles many families face, offering insights, strategies, and hope for those seeking justice and healing. In each episode, I'll explore real-life stories, expert advice, and practical solutions to help rebuild and strengthen the bond that holds families together. Whether you're personally affected or looking to understand more about these complex issues, you're not alone. I'm here to walk you down this path. Come join me as I navigate the complexities of family law, share inspiring journeys of resilience, and advocate for meaningful. Hey, thanks for joining the Fractured Family podcast with Charity. I have with me today Lindsey Alexander. She's an alienated mom from her daughter. Her story is a little bit unique. It's not the typical story we'll hear where one spouse or ex has alienated their child against that other formerly loving parents. Very interested in hearing Lindsey's story. It's a unique tale of trauma and parental alienation. Lindsey, thank you for joining and tell us a little bit about your story.
Thank you very much for having me. I am one of 4 siblings, right? And of course, I'm that typical scapegoated daughter of the narcissistic mother. I didn't meet my husband until I was 34. All my siblings had kids. I just thought I was going to be nanny. I bring that up to say that when this happened, I was also alienated from children that I considered my children for at least like 7 years. So it was a big deal. I got 34. I got married at 38. I got pregnant, and the first thing I did was cry because I was like, God, I don't want this child to suffer. Like my mom was not mean or abusive. It was just that narcissistic scapegoat thing. I had an eating disorder when I was 13. She took offense to that, and so when I did have my daughter, people would say I was a helicopter mom, but I mean, recent studies have said that that's not a bad thing. I was also the disciplinarian. You should have seen my husband, but I don't spank. I don't yell. I'm a certified parenting coach and gentle parenting, constant parenting, mindful parenting. The very first book I read was The Whole Brain Child. Like this, you can develop cognitive functioning and learn how to regulate your emotions. Like basically the opposite of everything that I knew growing up. I remember one time when I was changing her diaper, my mom's like, pop her on her thigh because she was wiggling at 6 months old. I was like, why on earth would I? That's sick. So there are 13 grandchildren. They're all allowed to be spanked and corrected by my parents the way my siblings want them to. They all love Gigi and Poppies and want to spend the night. My daughter did not. And they were not allowed to spank her. And if she didn't want to give him a hug, I didn't force her to. Now, if she said it impolitely, I might be like, say it nicely. She always said please and thank you. She makes straight A's. She's like the perfect student. My mother and father had been married for about 45 years, and my father became paralyzed, right? She became his 24/7 caregiver right as they retired. And he was like this patriarch, never sat down, go-getter man, provided for his family. And then she found out that he was also a secret alcoholic and had been having an affair. So, like, that's a lot of trauma, right? Well, instead of dealing with that and losing her sense of identity, she decided, they never liked the way I raised her, that she was going to go after my child. And what prompted this was, first she called BCFS, and the lady showed up at my house. I thought she was there as an advocate to help me get my daughter back in school, who had just been illegally removed from school. There's Kathy Evans. She's a state representative here. At the time, she was a parent-teacher advocate in Ascension Parish. She had 4 grandchildren there, 1 in my daughter's class, 2 daughters who taught there, and she had been going to church there for 22 years. She still could not get an answer on why one day I picked up my daughter and she was loaded in my car with all of her shit. And I never got an answer or an email back. Rumor around was that it used to be Mama May, because they loved the principal. And now it was leave mom, or Ba, because they called me Ba. Because you could go to chapel every morning. You could go to lunch every day, and you better believe I did, because she wasn't having it. So I was a stay-at-home mom. We lived on 35 acres of land in the middle of nowhere. And we played doctor, neighbor, store, zoo, pet store, rode 4-wheelers with adventures. I buried treasure. We went unicorn hunting. And I mean, that was my girl, I remember about a week before this happened, and my mom knew all this was in the works. She was going to go to the Blue Zoo with her cousin Maddie. My little brother lives next door with 2 kids. I don't want to go. Well, why don't you want to go? Gigi always asks me to spend the night by myself, and then she makes me feel bad about it. And I said, well, you don't have to go if you don't want to. Well, will you tell her in front of me to stop asking? And I was like, yeah, I'll tell her. So the next day I was like, Gigi, stop asking. It makes her feel bad, because she would do this thing like, Maddie's going to be sad, making her feel bad. Halloween weekend was like my last normal weekend of 2021. I go back to my house on that Monday, and this lady from DCFS shows up. And I'm all like, okay, what's our next step? How do we get her back in school? That's honestly legit what I thought. She was like, I'm here because there's been a report made about you. One of the allegations was that I got her kicked out of school for my irrational, erratic behavior. And that me and my husband were on drugs. So we would be ordered to go take a drug screen. I would leave right then and go take mine. My husband was working. We needed new orders, could never get back in touch with her. Even today, Todd refused his drug screen. No, he didn't. Lindsey failed her drug screen, all 3 of them. I only took one, and we never got it back. They subpoenaed it. We never got it back. So needless to say, apparently this woman told her, if you don't go fill out an ex parte of custody, I'm going to take your child and put her in foster care. Why, if you're taking the child anyway, you're going to put her with a parent? I also said my mother-in-law, who's not my favorite person, but lived 1 acre behind me, because I knew better than to get my mother anywhere near this, because I'd be where I'm at today. And then my mother shows up at my house with this lady, and she tells me the same thing. And I was like, no, we're going unicorn hunting. Then she came back with sheriffs, and November 19th, 2021, she drove off with my daughter, screaming, pleading, Baba, hurry, get in your car and get on side the interstate so you can ride by me, I was like, what is going on? So I texted my mom. I've always told my mom, you love me, but you don't like me, but never in a million years, like never. So I texted her. I said, look, I got to pack a bag. I'm not going to be able to catch up with you on the interstate. Tell her I'm on my way. In all caps, she sends me, do not come here. Lots have been changed. Police have been notified. Restraining orders have been filed. You will be arrested. I'm making a major play. And I was like, what? So that was day after I had gotten this voicemail. Hello, my name's John Brumfield. I'm an attorney, and I have a moral, legal, ethical obligation to let you know that your mother has filed an ex parte because didn't know what it was, never been involved, didn't know shit about shit, didn't know my rights, nothing, right? We're there for 10 hours. I hire some lawyer that I find. She's saying this is the hearing. It's not a hearing. They're just going back and forth. Apparently, they had entered up into a stipulated agreement. But even so, by law, if these allegations can't be proven against you in 45 days, it is null and void. That would be January 3rd, 2022. He didn't reschedule it until January 10th on a Zoom conference that he canceled. That was something he was famous for. So we would go the next 10 months taking, every time we went to have a hearing, we never had a hearing. We were just ordered to go take more drug screens. We would be thrown in jail for 5 days. All of the offenses, oddly enough, though, were against me, not my husband, because he's just working, making the money. I'm the one on the front lines, right? And it sucks because we were either like this or we were fighting. I told him that because his parent at one point said, if you divorce Lindsey, we'll give you the money, we'll get a good lawyer, and you can get Lee, and we'll lock her away. But it wouldn't be the first time that they asked him that. I might would have left that was his doing that to me. And in July, finally, we get this last order. So last thing, this is we're 9 months in. He's like, okay, go to Ascension Counseling, a place that would be one of the reasons that we were thrown in jail, because we did not go to Ascension Counseling for our behavior analysis, because we had emails from the people. We don't do it for civil cases. We're not expert witnesses. We would be penalized for not following court orders. My lawyer talked to the judge into calling the owner. They agreed to do it for me and Todd. So we went in. She went on her days off on a Monday and a Tuesday, 5-hour evaluation, passed the drug screen. He said, whatever they say, that's it. Rave reviews. My in-laws are on their way to get her from Zachary, where my parents live. And during this whole time, my mother had gone 8 weeks 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and not doing visitation. My mother's neighbor is also the sheriff. So we would show up. I'm not allowed on the property, so I'd stand at the street. And like, she's not doing visitation, nothing, oh, it's civil, Well, then I find out about the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction Enforcement Act from the lawyer of the Supreme Court who I called. It wasn't until that February, after we got our investigation letters back from DCFS, that invalid, unfounded. It was still like 5 weeks later, and I didn't know who to call. I'm calling the Supreme Court. I'm still just like ignorant to all this. At this point, I still had no idea that it was my mother. She's telling everybody that we're on drugs, we're failing drugs, and Lee was going to go to foster care. To this day, even though it is on the record with the head investigator of DCFS stating that they were never going to remove my child. They were never going to put her in foster care. My mother did this on her own free will. My siblings still think I'm mean to mom. I ought to be grateful because mom saved her from foster care. Okay. The first 11 days from November 19th till December 1st, our hearing, my husband wouldn't even come in the house because I was screaming, like wailing, like on my knees, like I couldn't stop. And the business was outside, and he's like, I couldn't come in the house. I didn't know what to say to you, I didn't think that I would make it. I honestly didn't think that I would make it. And then I get there, and the very first thing my lawyer tells me is, you're not leaving with your child today. So this is like Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays. I just bought her a ragdoll cat that I'd driven her 2 hours to visit this cat before the cat was even old enough to come home. She's ready for Pearl. She took little Pearl stickers and stuck them all around the house. Wouldn't even let me bring her to see her. When I go back and like right now, I'm doing all these things, right? With different motions, different this. And I have to go back and revisit all this stuff. Reading the things that came out of my mother's mouth, that looking at this judge, just, for example, granting my daughter a Watermeyer hearing, right? He sits in a van for 8 hours in July, only at the end of the trial to be told he's not going to hear her. At that time, they had filed an emergency ex parte to suspend visitation, which is an illegal motion. You can't change visitation without both parties present, but it's family court, who cares? So I hadn't seen her in months. He knew that I was dying to see her. I had a present sitting right there. When we took a break, he told me, Miss Alexander, you're not allowed to leave the courtroom. So anyway, we get her back. We pass the detention, and here comes Brumfeld. We've never once discussed my daughter in court. How is she doing? How is she adjusting? We're only told, go take more drug tests. And he always wants us to go to his friend, right? I mean, like the stuff that I know now, I've been asked in the past 3 years, are you a lawyer? And I think he used this guy. Number one, he's not a collector. He uses a front downtown. So when I subpoenaed my records from this guy, I found out that they were doing ex parte communication through the judge. And several, like one day I went to do a hair test, and there were 2 samples sent out, So, we get the, ascension tariff thing. We go to court. They're on their way to get her from Zachary because we know we're going to get her back. We're literally about to leave court, and he stands up and he goes, Your Honor, I don't think it would hurt if they went tomorrow and had, one more set of all 3 drug tests done. Literally at this point, we've taken hundreds of drug tests. Okay. And he says, I think that's a good idea. We have just left Ascension Counseling where you made this woman come in on her day off and told her whatever she says goes. All the other judges, or you go to Gulf Coast, which is just like, there's like 30 of them around there. So the state, 5 minutes from our house. My daughter's first night home, she's finally sleeping like a rock. She's got these circles under her eyes. She's grinding her teeth. She's got restless leg syndrome. I didn't want to wake her up. We were an hour late. Okay. We passed the drug test, but he declared to have them as failed because we were late, and the judge agreed. So I told my mom, I sent her a message. I don't know if she got it or not because she would block me, unblock me. Like I am blocked and banned from everybody. And I said, if you send cops here, which she'd done before several times, she would make agreements with me. Yeah, you keep an extra day. It's Christmas. It's her birthday. And then change her mind. One time her lawyer filed a civil warrant. My mom wasn't even in town. So I don't know if it was him more than her or what, both of them together. And so I said, you will have to pry her from my cold, dead body if you think that you're getting this child out of my arms. So I thought that she had taken that and maybe just kind of stepped back for a second. I found out now about a year ago, oh no, they were arguing the whole time, the two lawyers, the whole 5 weeks they were arguing, right? So meanwhile, the lady, Kathy Edmondson, who is now a state representative here, who was helping me with the school, got me enrolled in a little private school there that knew my story and knew my child's trauma, because I would have to sit at the school all day and my daughter would have to look outside about once an hour to make sure no one was coming to steal her. 5 weeks, and my husband had the tooth infection. Now, at this point in time, my husband had to lay off employees. He lost clients because he runs his own business, because we're in court, drug testing, 5 days in jail, spending a ton of money because we went through 3 lawyers. And he was born with a congenital heart condition. He has mitral valve prolapse. I'm 5'8" and I weigh about 125. He's 6'2" and did not weigh much more than me. I mean, he's all muscled. He was a beautiful man, so he worked a job that he probably should not have worked in the first place, but it was his grandfather's and he took pride in it. And when he got that toothache, he was looking rough. We had told our attorney, my mom's attorney, my mom, the judge, like, how long? Why, y'all, we can't do this. I have text messages of him saying, I've lost fatherhood. I've lost my manhood. I've lost the respect of my wife. I've lost employees. I've lost clients. And now I'm going to lose my life. I don't know how much longer I can do this. And then 3 weeks later, he was dropped. He died at around 11:30. I had been at the school all day. I knew that he had had that tooth infection. He was going to the dentist. He messaged me and said, they told me to leave immediately and go get on an IV antibiotic. So we'll go do it. He's the type of person that has to take amoxicillin before he goes to the dentist. And somehow he died at home with a paper script. I still don't have the answers to that. I have no information on that to this day whatsoever. And so I leave school with my daughter. I was there all day. We're not phone people. I could go on vacation. It could be 2 or 3 days. We're just not phone people, So the fact that I hadn't heard from him all day wasn't that big of a deal. I assumed he probably got on an IV antibiotic and then went and poured concrete, because that's the type of person he was. I'm getting all these messages, Facebook Messenger, message. And I'm like, this is weird. No, people know not to contact me because I'm not going to respond or answer, And when we got home at around like 4:30, there was a bunch of cars in the driveway. My in-laws lived behind me and it was gravel, so it was muddy. It was eerie. And the thing that tipped me off was his truck was parked in the driveway of the home, not the driveway of the business. And I walked in and all my box fans are in the living room and there's a little pool of red on the ground beneath his chair. And Lee goes, oh, Daddy spilled his watermelon drink. And I said, probably, well, that's after she had a panic attack because she thought she saw a car that looked like my mom. They're coming to steal you, baby. Nobody's coming to steal you. It's okay. I'm going to walk back to Mimi's and find out what's going on. And I walked back there and I knocked on the door and the whole family was back there. I'm just the wife. But some man that I don't know walked to the door and he said, is this the wife? And it's the way he said, is this the wife? Like I knew right then and there. I just knew. And I just fell to the ground and started screaming, because my whole life, I've never felt that sense of like safety, security, unconditional love me for my quirks, love me for who I am. Not only put up with him, but would often tell me, you know what I wish? I wish I could go back and hug that little 3-year-old girl. Or if I would be down on myself, he would say, stop being mean to my best friend. Or, fell to the ground, started crying. But then I'm like, okay, Lee's at home. Zombie 3 had just come out. We've been waiting on Zombie 3 to come out, like as a family, like we're like zombies is out. She's watching it, And I'm like, okay, dry it up. Put your big girl panties on. How are you going to do this? She's only been home for 5 weeks. She's been through the worst 10 months of her life. What are you going to do? So I called Mr. and Mrs. the teacher of the school and the pastor of the church, and I was like, y'all, what do I do? They're like, we'll come over after Bible study at around 8. I also called Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office and I was like, can a deputy come over and like maybe talk to me and tell me what happened to my husband? Because the second the man said, is this the wife? My father-in-law started screaming, you're upsetting your mother, Nancy, that's my mother-in-law. Like, you're going to be evicted tomorrow. And da-da-da. And I was just like, is he literally telling me this in the same sentence that I'm being told that my husband just dropped dead? And then I'm walking back, a sheriff's office walks by, and I was like, hi, I'm Lindsey, I'm the wife. Kept walking. So at 8 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. I thought it was either going to be the deputy coming to talk to me or Mr. and Mrs. Ross, right? I've been going outside pretending to water flowers because it was still August 1st, and been trying to pull myself back together. I'm sure she knew something was up. They're not stupid. And when there was a knock on the door, panic mode. She's back on the couch. Bah, don't answer. It's the police. They're coming to steal me. I got down on my knees and I looked that child in her eyes and I touched her on her cheek and I said, baby, you're safe. No one is ever going to steal you again. And I opened that door and I was violently ripped barefoot from my home and handcuffed and thrown in the back of a cop car, driven away, and she was stolen again. And that would be the last time that I saw her, with the exception of a couple of hours over the past 2.5 years. It was my mother. She found out that my husband died. That made her my next of kin. And instead of thinking, oh my gosh, my daughter's probably devastated, she thought, I could throw her in a psych ward and get Lee. I was there for 7 days. When I got back, I had an eviction notice on my door. If I knew what I knew now about Louisiana laws, that I own that home, I would have never left there. They had both filed temporary restraining orders, and my mother essentially was just holding my kid hostage. There was no custody arrangement. There still was no custody arrangement. So I agreed finally. I was defeated. I was like, fine. The accusation was her husband just overdosed on drugs. She's going to be next, right? My in-laws would tell the sheriff, you might want to check him for arsenic. We think his wife poisoned him with arsenic. I was investigated for poisoning my husband with arsenic. So I thought 7 days in the cycle, maybe 21 days at it, I didn't test positive, autopsy report, no illicit drugs, no arsenic, but I was going for 107 days in an institutionalized treatment facility. Granted, I got a lot out of it. The therapy was good. I learned a lot, It was just like eye-opening, You learn these life skills. Like 4 days after, my mom's emailing, we're right back where we started from. She wouldn't even let her ride with me into town 5 minutes away to get ice. And it was always, I have custody of her. I did it, it was always this attitude that, now when my sister picked me up, it was Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve, December 23rd, 2022. Oh, she was so sweet. She was so nice. The family was there. The second my sister left, if I went and took a bath, it was, what are you doing in my bathroom? It was just like, what I was like, okay. So she has absolutely, this is not going to go good. This is not going to go good, right? Well, I can't go to my house because my in-laws had a temporary restraining order. So I'm told by the judge, establish a residence and you can get your kid back. So even though they had signed an affidavit not to touch my shit while I was gone, because they told me I was holding my husband's body for hostage, they put it all over Facebook. They didn't even mention my name in the obituary. He is survived by his daughter, Lee, his mother, and his father, Don and Nick. Yeah. They wanted me to sign an affidavit that said, I release his body to them and I want nothing to do with it. I was like, no. And I'm in this treatment facility. I'm not even supposed to have my phone at all for the first 30 days, but they know my issue. So I'm on my phone, I can only do so much. If my lawyer doesn't answer in that 10 minutes they give me my phone, it might be 4 days before I call him back. So they're on Facebook saying, I'm holding his body. Finally, I signed that affidavit because my lawyer said that they had signed an affidavit saying that we would split the ashes, which I think is just sounds morbid for some reason. And I wanted a thumbprint, right? And that they would not touch anything in my house like they've been threatening until 15 days after I was released. The second they got the affidavit, they emptied my house. And so I was able to manage get about half of it, right? So I would establish a residence at the end of January 2023, and we would go to court in February. both counselors because now I'm doing intensive outpatients, what they had to fight for, because when you do 107 days of treatment, you've completed the program, nobody's paying for you to do outpatient at that point, And I'm doing intensive outpatient 3 days a week. We have our hearing. Both counselors are like, we don't understand why she doesn't have her kid back now when the judge said, is there any reason why, This doesn't make sense. This is what we do. This is our job. We're the people that deal with this. Like, this makes no sense. Like, with Lindsey, it's not like drug addict. It was grief more than anything. The grief of the first 10 months of her child, then her husband dying, and then being thrown in a psych ward. Like, she's just experienced, like, so much back-to-back trauma. That's what we were working with Lindsey for so long. And I'm taking 3 drug screens a day. So when I show up to that February hearing, I have like 60 negative drug screens. He took it under advisement, which was something he was famous for. 5 weeks later, I don't even get overnight visits. Well, I'm willing to sacrifice a day and have this child go to school 5 days a week. I know she wants to see me, but when it comes time to leave, it's traumatic. And she compartmentalizes very well, out of sight, out of mind. So I didn't want her only 5 days at school, 2 days off to be this emotional roller coaster. So if my mom wasn't going to let her stay the night, I was willing to sacrifice a day, as much as I didn't want to. So, she would order me to go get testing at this EF research guy. He stayed his house. This would go on for until they filed that emergency ex parte of custody. And they filed it, the emergency ex parte, to suspend visitation at 4:20 on a Friday, and it was signed at 4:28. Meanwhile, motions like, can my daughter have a lawyer? He would take under advisement for months. We would have to file a writ of mandamus, and he still didn't answer it. And no one told me. My daughter sent me a FaceTime. Do you need to call Gigi? She's asking, why I'm not seeing, and that was it. I stopped seeing her, and that was April of 23. And then we would go to court to have a hearing, because the reason why they did that was because I refused to take a hair test. I think we all know that you learn to record and video everything at a certain point. If I'm recording and videoing, I didn't refuse to take a hair test. He refused to cut my hair. I told him, you have to. It's a court order from a judge. Well, I'm going to wait and hear from Brumfeld, my mother's lawyer. I said, you have to. It's a court order from a judge. Well, it says I just have to take the sample. It doesn't say I have to mail it off. I'm like yelling at him at this point. I called my lawyer. He's like, leave now, go to Gulf Coast. So I did, in and out in 15 minutes, hair follicle test negative, right? He would state that. We would go to the court-appointed LCSW the next day. She would recommend that she be returned to me immediately. She would speak to the therapist at the IOP, and not a lot of people see through my mom immediately. Marcia did. Marcia was like, I got your number, you're wasting time. We have spent 45 minutes discussing whether or not, Lindsey is on drugs. And from everything I can see from this paperwork, she's not. We need to talk about Lee. That's what we're here for, y'all, and getting her back with her mother. My mama refused to go back to that lady, but that lady did write the judge a lawyer recommending that, saying, I spoke with Gulf Coast, I spoke with the therapist, I recommend at least overnight, if not be returned to the mother immediately. The very next day, they would file that to suspend visitation altogether. And I would spend the next till today. He recused himself on October 31st, but scheduled a status conference for November 9th. And we didn't find out that he recused himself until November 10th, citing excessive ex parte communication on all parties. In other words, my lawyer, her lawyer, my mother, my sister messaged him on Facebook, and me. But the only ones he had from me were from the ones that was one of the other reasons that I had already served jail for. It was when I was representing myself per se, when I was thrown in jail for not going to detention, whatever the reason was. The only other reason that they had was that I had taken her and ran and hid in the hotel. I did do that. I'm sorry. I did. It was the best 4 days of my life in that 3-year period, so whatever. But so he recused himself, citing that. And then at the end, he put, now it's going to be up to the next judge whether or not they want to pursue contempt charges against Mrs. Alexander. Wrote out an order for it and everything. Get another judge. It's like 2 weeks before we're assigned another judge. I immediately file emergency ex parte to reinstate custody. He sits on it for 4 weeks. Call my office every day.
How old is she at this point?
When this first happened, she was 6.5. She is 9 now. When this first happened, she believed in Santa. She believed in her elf on the shelf. I could hold her. She slept with me. I missed so many milestones. I mean, about to be double-digit birthday, And so I'm calling up there every day, like, dude, deny it if you want to. I don't care, but you can't just sit on it. It's an ex parte, deny it or set it for hearing or grant it, one or the other. Make a move. Well, then the Chief Justice, her name is Tess Stromberg, is the daughter of my in-laws attorney. So it is just good old boy system down here, all right? She calls my lawyer at the time and says, listen, we're not doing anything until we hear back from the Supreme Court because we're calling sanctions against Lindsey because she harassed me and calling up here too much. You know who else knows me? The judicial administrator of the Supreme Court, Sandra move on it, and the head of the clerk of court, Veronica Coakley. So I'm, what are they waiting on? Why are they doing this? They're like, we don't have anything here for you. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, can you print out on a letterhead? And so I go to file it. I have to pay $60 to file it. They just won't take the email. And so I'm thinking, okay, Judge Thoreau thinks this. He's going to run up there and find out that's not true. He's going to grant it, sign it. So I'm waiting down in the lobby. I'm escorted out by a sheriff's deputy and threatened to be arrested if I show back up to a courthouse where I have 4 open cases. Because I'm also doing the restraining orders, the contempt, the custody. Yeah, that's 4, 2 restraining orders. Okay. Okay. And I'm not allowed to call up there apparently either, even after I just proved that she was lying. So then he would recuse himself and not tell us for another week. Meanwhile, there's an ad hoc judge there, right? He's not part of the good old boy system, Judge Zeno. If you're listening, Judge Zeno, for some reason, I love you. This man spoke to me more rudely than any judge has ever spoken to me, and he's my favorite judge in the world because he followed the law. He followed the law. My in-laws restraining order literally had things that stated attempts to control my mind through text messaging. And an educated person signed off on that. What? So he took one look at it and was like, this is frivolous. This is dismissed. But he snapped at me for speaking out of order because I don't have a lawyer. But he followed the law, So Thoreau recuses himself. We're scheduled again for December 10th. We have not been in front of a judge since July, okay? That's when he told me that I couldn't take and go see her during that break. And I'm like, well, we're going to have Zeno. Zeno's going to be like, this should be null and void. He's going to follow the law, and we're getting her back. 2 days before that hearing, 2 days, a new judge is benched. Kiana Turner Gant, okay? Well, her father-in-law, Alvin Turner Gant Sr. was Chief Justice. He had integrity. He played basketball with my husband. He was a good stand-up man. Maybe some of that rubbed off on her. No. She informed us that day, and there were several times, and I have several videos where I'm telling my daughter, this is it. I've done everything they told me to do. There's no way that I could even be picking you up at school tomorrow. And then I would that was right before the visitation thing. Then I'd just never see her again. They would make liars out of me so often. And so me and my husband also had a habit because we knew that they were going to say, go take more drug tests, even though we had just followed all those orders. So we would go every court date, we would go before court and go take just a quick string urinalysis. Not to mention we would have all the other ones, So, she hadn't had time to familiarize herself with our case. It's going to be rescheduled for January 8th. I'm begging for Christmas. I haven't seen my daughter in months, right? Begging. No, I need to see clean drug screens. Man, that's it. Right here. Literally, in the past 4 weeks. One is from this morning. That doesn't make any sense, right? So I would not see her for that Christmas. That was probably the worst I've ever been. 5'8", like I said, I've gotten down to 102 pounds. I was I was back to just laying on the ground screaming. I mean,
Where are you today with it as we come to an end? What is going
oh,
on?
so I'm renting this house. I'm running out of money. So the attorney at the time finally writes a letter to the attorney general saying that he is withdrawing from counsel because the corruption and bias against his client is unprecedented in his 35 years of practicing law, that he believes a legal collusion is taking place against me, and he would appreciate any help. Never heard back from the attorney general. As of today, and this is just with him, 8 months with him, as of to date, I have over 90 negative drug screens. 90. I have over 150. Now that I've got ChatGPT, that's called a legal search and seizure. So he withdraws from counsel. I'm running out of money. I get this other pro bono lawyer that's like an hour away. He's going through my case because he's kind of, OCD. And he realizes, because I'm a Virgo, I keep meticulous records. Half of the documents that I have, they're not on the court record. Anything that I did that followed it's not on the record. Half of it. So I'm running out of money to fight for her. I was worried about saving my daughter. That was it. Like get home safely, get home, get Lee, worry about everything else later. And so we had also been given a stipulated agreement for like my husband's clothes, a few things that were special to me in May of 23 by Judge Zeno that I still to this day don't have. And they probably don't even smell like him anymore. And like when somebody dies, you just want to like smell that. Sorry. So anyway, I still don't have that stuff. And so I petitioned the court, even though I don't need to, because it's literally in my name and it's my property and it's my right. The truck, my husband's Dodge Ram, which is a diesel to pull heavy duty. So it's like, worth a good bit of money. And his gooseneck trailer at lowballing. We're talking 25 grand. Okay. That's enough to like keep me fighting. Right. So we go to court on April 1st and it is ordered to be given to me. But his friend, the hearing officer, writes, he's interim mayor right now in Percy, so he can't be acting as their attorney anymore, okay? That he can't. And I can file a tort lawsuit against him. But anyways, but he's just there for the heck of it. So he says, I'm going to get Ryland Percy to get with the sheriff's deputies to arrange a date and time for y'all to meet to exchange these two agreed upon items, okay? First thing Ryland Percy did was email me and ask me what kind of fraud I committed to get the truck and trailer in my name. So he knows we're talking about the truck and trailer. Then it was, it says the items that you agree upon. I've been married to this man for 13 years. I know these people. Do you think I would walk out of that courthouse without having something agreed upon? Absolutely not. Like it's the truck and it's the trailer. Everybody knows it. And I don't even need a court order. It's in my name,
Yes.
And so to this day, I do not have that truck and trailer. I would try to get it and I would be arrested, wrongfully incarcerated on 4 different occasions. One time for 4 days, one time for 2 weeks, one time for 4 weeks, and one time for 6 weeks. I had made an arrangement with my landlord that I would do favors for her around the house. She knew everything that was going on. I offered her my grandma's Mickey Moto pearls, my grandma's antique furniture, worth way more than what I owed her in rent. My friend offered to paint the house because she had bought paint. He was a roofer. She's like, no, I'm good. Don't worry about it. In less than 24 hours, on a Thursday at 1:15, I got an email from her that said I would be evicted the next day at 8:45. And I was like, this isn't real. My car had been repossessed the last time I was in jail. My home had been burglarized. I just literally been ran over by a truck and spent 2 days in the emergency room at the hearing for the eviction, where he did grant it, but she told me, eviction's going to go through. I don't agree with this timeline. I'll let you know. So a week goes by. She didn't let me know until less than 24 hours, Medically, I'm under medical care. The doctor's like, you can't move yourself. But none of that was heard. And she showed up. And at first I thought she like hired the cheapest movers in the world. But then I'm like, she probably paid them extra. Because if it was glass, it was shattered. My daughter's bunk bed that I bought her when I had established a new residence that she never slept in. They didn't bring any tools. They ripped it apart. They just broke the boards over their legs, get it out. We did this thing every year, fairy season, from her birthday to Easter. The fairy lord, because she missed her elf so much, the fairy lord would bring her a fairy. I got more into it than she did. I'm not gonna lie. I started dropping some bucks on some collectible fairy figurines. I mean, they were beautiful. Oh, it just made it. We loved fairy season, and I still had all the boxes. I'm like, y'all be careful with those. I have the boxes. I'll take them. And meanwhile, I'm holding her cat who's freaking out because I'm like, I can't tell her Pearl is dead too, like scratched all up. They take all of those fairy figurines and put them in a blanket. 1, 2, 3, and sunk it. So if it was glass, it was broken. 2 yards down, I find my husband's death certificate in the yard.
Gosh.
And guess what my mom thinks? This is a good day to throw my daughter in a psych ward again. Okay. I have one cousin at this point. I have 2, but this one, she's a third cousin. All the other families turned their backs on me. She called me, she's like, they're throwing you in a psych ward again. I can't do this. Like, I'm sick of them fucking with you. I just wanted to let you know. So I go to the psych ward, tell them if our stories collaborate, they're going to let me go. She comes over the next day. I found the cat. I put the cat in the house, but I sat outside watching my stuff. She knows the home was burglarized. That's why the window's damaged. But she called the cops and said, I damaged the property and I trespassed. And she threw me in jail for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, my stuff was at the road. When I got out, every single thing I owned, every baby book, every journal, my husband's ashes and his thumbprint, everything, 47 years worth of stuff was gone. I was homeless. I was carless. Had about 4 outfits to my name. And my friend came and let me stay here. And that's where I'm at today. Filing a writ of a motion to compel to comply to the court order to get the truck and trailer and working on a lawsuit against the illegal eviction.
So tragedy, absolute tragedy. But one last question before we wrap up. Do you speak with your daughter at all? When was the last time you
I don't even remember before. I know it was about a week before I was evicted because she wasn't allowed to call me. They turned off location services. They wanted to get her a new phone, which meant I wouldn't be the organizer. I wouldn't have the phone number or anything like that. She called me begging me, and then my mom walks in the room and she's like, "Baba, hide your face. I'm gonna put you down here," And then all of a sudden the phone gets ripped away from her. She's screaming, crying, "I don't want a new number. I won't be able to talk to you." That's the last time I talked to her.
So it sounds like through all this, she still has hope
I hope so, because we were like this. And my mom says I poisoned her against her. I'm like, no, she sees the way you treat me, her favorite person. I don't have to say a word, But at some point, she's got to think, well, what's taking so long?
Of course. Yeah. But that's the problem, Lindsey, is that these alienators don't want them to have hope.
She has been told god-awful things about me.
They want them to believe you have alienated. They want them to have abandoned them and you're a bad person.
My mother said, if your father loved you more than he loved drugs, he wouldn't be dead. If your mother loved you more than she loved drugs, you could see her. She said that to her in front of my face. Meanwhile, I had not failed a drug test.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for joining the Fractured Families podcast, Lindsey. And
thank you for letting me tell my story.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fractured Families podcast. I hope our conversation has provided you with support, understanding, and actionable insights to help you navigate your own family challenges. Remember, healing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more families in need. You can contact me on social media at Parental Alienation is Real and visit our website for additional resources and ways to get involved. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep fighting for the family bonds that matter most. Until next time, take care and stay resilient.